It was supposed to be just another filming day for Love and Hip Hop Atlanta lights, cameras, and perfectly staged drama. But what happened behind those VH1 cameras that afternoon was too real for television. Producers didn't just cut the scene, they buried it, because what Rasheeda discovered that day was something no wife should ever have to face. And what Kirk confessed when the cameras stopped rolling could have ended everything: their marriage, their brand, and even the show itself. According to a production insider, Rasheeda had walked into the green room with her usual calm, radiant smile. She was ready to film a confessional about her family's new beginning. But a quiet conversation between two crew members changed everything. One whispered phrase. The second baby froze her mid-sentence. The color drained from her face. You could almost feel the tension thick enough to cut through the air. Everyone in the room went silent, as if time itself had stopped. At first, she thought she misheard it. A second baby? No, that couldn't be real. But when one of the producers tried to signal the sound crew to cut the feed, Rasheeda's instincts kicked in. She turned sharply, eyes blazing, demanding, "What did you just say?" Her voice wasn't just angry, it was shaking with disbelief. And that's when the whispers started to spread across the set, like wildfire. Within minutes, Kirk was called onto the stage. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. Cameras were still rolling, they always were, but this time, even the producers didn't know what to do. Rasheeda stood there, trembling but unbroken, as she looked Kirk dead in the eyes. "Tell me it's not true," she said quietly, her tone more heartbreaking than explosive. Kirk froze. You could see the guilt written all over his face. And Jasmine, the woman at the center of their previous scandal, was nowhere in sight. But according to insiders, it wasn't just about Jasmine anymore. There was another name being whispered, another story, another baby, one that VH1 executives decided would never make it to air. What followed next was chaos. Producers shouting, security stepping in, and Rasheeda demanding every tape, every clip, every email. Sources say she even stormed into the production office, refusing to leave until she got the truth. And when Kirk finally opened his mouth, the entire set fell silent. Fans who were there that day, the few who caught a glimpse before the footage was locked away, still talk about the look on Rasheeda's face, the heartbreak, the shock, the fury. She wasn't acting. This was real, and VH1 knew it. That's why the network buried that footage deeper than any storyline they've ever filmed. But now, years later, the truth is surfacing. The story VH1 didn't want you to see the day Rasheeda found out about the second baby. What really happened behind that curtain? Who leaked it? And how far did the cover-up go? Stay tuned, because what comes next will change everything you thought you knew about the Frost family forever. It began quietly. Almost too quietly. The kind of silence that makes your skin tighten because you know something is coming. Something that doesn't belong in a regular day. The studio lights were still warm from the morning interviews. The scent of hairspray and coffee hung in the air. And the crew moved around like ghosts, pretending not to overhear what they already knew. Rasheeda had just finished a confessional about forgiveness, about rebuilding trust, about trying again. She was glowing, her tone calm, her words polished, but behind that calm, her heart was still healing from the first betrayal that almost broke her. Everyone thought the Frost family had turned a corner. Everyone was wrong. Kirk had been acting strange for weeks. He'd started arriving early, leaving late, taking calls outside in the parking lot where no one could hear him. He told producers it was about business, a new deal, a fresh storyline to boost ratings. But something in his eyes betrayed him. It wasn't ambition this time, it was fear. And fear never lies. Rasheeda walked out of the confessional room and stopped to fix her mic. That's when she heard it, a muffled conversation near the hallway where the assistant producers kept their gear. A woman's voice whispered something about the second baby, and another voice hushed her. It was faint, but Rasheeda's intuition didn't miss it. She froze, pretending to check her phone, her ears sharp, her pulse racing. She'd been through this before. She knew the language of secrets. When she turned the corner, the two crew members nearly jumped out of their skins. One dropped a clipboard. The other stammered, "We didn't mean," but she cut them off with a look. Her voice was low, controlled, terrifyingly calm. "What second baby?" she asked. The younger producer shook her head, eyes wide. "Rasheeda, please, it's nothing. It's not even confirmed." But that word, confirmed, was all she needed to hear. She stormed past them, straight toward the soundstage. The cameras were still rolling from another scene. Some cast members laughing, music playing faintly. But when Rasheeda appeared in the doorway, everything stopped. You could feel the shift. Even the background chatter died mid. Kirk was standing near the monitors, talking to one of the sound guys. When he saw her, his face went pale. "Kirk," she said, her voice steady but trembling underneath. We need to talk. Now." The room emptied like someone had yelled fire. Crew members scattered, pretending to check equipment. Actors found excuses to leave. Only the director stayed. Frozen, watching through his headset, Rasheeda stood in front of Kirk, arms folded, eyes locked on him. "They're saying something about another baby," she said. "Tell me that's not true." Kirk hesitated, his hand moving to his neck like it always did when he was nervous. "Rash, come on, not here, not like this," he muttered. She stepped closer. "No, exactly like this. I'm done with secrets behind closed doors. If there's something you need to tell me, say it to my face." His silence was the answer. It was like time folded over itself, dragging every old wound back to the surface. She laughed, not out of humor but out of disbelief. "You really did it again," she said quietly. "After everything we went through, after everything I forgave." Her voice cracked on the last word. Crew members outside pretended to be busy, but everyone was listening. The tension leaked through the walls. A camera that hadn't been turned off yet caught part of the exchange. Raw, unscripted, electric. When the producer realized what was happening, he whispered into the headset, "Cut the feed. Now." But the camera operator didn't move. He couldn't. He knew this was bigger than TV. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that," Kirk said finally. "It wasn't planned." The words hit her like cold water. "Wasn't planned?" she repeated. "You make it sound like a business mistake, Kirk. This is a child. Another child." Her tone hardened, all warmth gone. "And whose baby is it this time?" He looked down. No answer. The silence was deafening. She exhaled slowly, her hands trembling. "You're unbelievable," she whispered. "I've stood by you when nobody else would. I fought for you, I defended you, and you bring this to me while I'm working. While I'm out here holding our name together." He tried to reach for her, but she stepped back. "Don't," she said, her voice breaking but firm. "You don't get to touch me right now." She turned away, but her tears came before she could stop them. One of the makeup artists handed her a tissue, but she pushed it away. "No, let them see," she said bitterly. "Let them all see what love and hip-hop really looks like." The producers panicked. They called for a break, tried to usher people out, but Rasheeda wasn't done. She turned back to Kirk, her eyes burning. "Who is she?" she asked again. "I want a name." "It doesn't matter," he said under his breath. "It matters to me," she snapped. Someone in the back gasped. One of the assistants whispered, "They're still recording," but Kirk didn't care anymore. "It's not Jasmine," he said finally. "That's all I'm gonna say." The room fell completely silent. Even Rasheeda's breathing slowed. "So there is someone else," she whispered. "Someone new." She shook her head, laughing through tears. "You really never stop, do you?" He tried to speak again, but the door behind them opened. A producer stepped in, holding a clipboard, eyes wide like she'd seen a ghost. "We need to shut this down," she said quickly. "Network's orders." Rasheeda turned on her. "What do you mean network's orders?" The producer hesitated. "They said no personal confrontation footage outside approved scripts. They want it deleted." Rasheeda's voice rose. "Deleted? You think you can erase my pain because it doesn't fit your storyline?" She walked straight up to the producer, eyes fierce. "You roll on everything else. You show every fight, every tear, every lie. But now you want to protect him." "Rasheeda, please," the woman begged. "There are contracts, then break them," she shouted, "because this is the truth, and you can't edit truth." Security was called. Kirk tried to calm her, saying her name softly, but she turned away from him completely. "Don't say my name like you still own it," she said. "You lost that right." The network execs arrived within the hour. They escorted everyone out, sealed the footage, and pulled the entire crew into a closed meeting. The cast was told to stay quiet, to pretend the scene never happened. But you can't hide a storm like that. Word leaked within days. Whispers on set became rumors online. Hashtag started. Days. Whispers on set became rumors online. Hashtag started appearing. Fan blogs speculating about a second child storyline that VH1 was too scared to show. Meanwhile, Rasheeda withdrew. She stopped filming for a week. Kirk tried to reach her, leaving messages, sending flowers, even showing up at the Frost Bistro unannounced. But she wouldn't see him. She spent her days upstairs in the office, scrolling through old photos, trying to remember when things were good, when love wasn't so complicated. Her assistant found her one night staring at her reflection in the mirror, whispering to herself, "How many times can a woman forgive before she forgets who she is?" Outside, the media caught wind of something brewing. Paparazzi began camping near their store. TMZ ran a teaser, "Trouble in Paradise for the Frost family." And within hours, fans flooded her Instagram with comments. "We're with you, Rasheeda," one wrote. "He doesn't deserve you." Another said, "If this is true, VH1 better air it." But VH1 stayed silent. The network issued a generic statement about respecting the privacy of our talent. Insiders said the executives feared legal issues, brand backlash, maybe even cast walkouts. But those close to the production knew the truth. They were protecting Kirk. Protecting the image of a reconciled couple that sold stories, merchandise, and ratings. Rasheeda wasn't having it. She called her lawyer, demanding access to the raw footage. When they refused, she threatened to go public. She even considered leaking it herself. One night, she told a close friend, "They think I won't expose them, but I will. I'll burn the whole set down before I let them silence me again." The friend urged her to calm down, but she was past calm. She was a woman betrayed twice, once by her husband, and once by the network that built its empire on her pain. She started digging, contacting crew members off the record, offering to pay for any copies of the footage. One of them finally agreed to meet her in secret, saying he had something she needed to see. The meeting was arranged in a parking lot near downtown Atlanta, under the glow of a flickering streetlight. Rasheeda sat in her car, engine running, heart pounding. The crew member arrived with a small flash drive. He looked nervous. "This is it," he said. "But if they find out I gave it to you, I'm done." She nodded, pressing an envelope into his hand. "Don't worry," she said softly. "You didn't see me. I didn't see you." She plugged the drive into her laptop right there in the car. The screen flickered, and there it was. The footage they'd tried to bury. The confrontation, the words, the heartbreak. Her own face, staring back at her, eyes red, voice shaking. She watched it all, tears streaming silently. But what she didn't expect was what came next. A brief off-camera moment where Kirk was pulled aside by a producer. The audio was faint, but you could make out the words. "She doesn't know about the second one yet." Kirk's reply was barely a whisper. "I was gonna tell her after the reunion." Rasheeda's hands went cold. The second one yet. There was no misunderstanding that there wasn't just another baby. There was another secret still waiting to explode. And as the laptop screen dimmed, she realized something that changed everything. The betrayal wasn't over. It was just beginning. She sat there in the driver's seat for almost an hour, staring at the frozen frame on her laptop screen. Kirk's voice echoed in her mind like a loop she couldn't escape. "I was gonna tell her after the reunion." After the reunion. That meant he'd been sitting across from her, filming episodes, smiling for cameras, kissing her on cue, all while carrying a truth that would break her again. The kind of truth no edit could hide and no apology could fix. The streetlight flickered again, throwing long shadows across the windshield. Rasheeda wiped her tears with the back of her hand and whispered, "You lied to me again, Kirk." Her voice was almost a whisper to herself, like she needed to say it out loud to believe it. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Kirk calling again. She stared at the screen until it stopped. Then another call. Then a text. "Please call me. I need to explain." She threw the phone onto the seat and turned off the engine. The next morning, Atlanta woke up to whispers. Something was happening inside the Frost Circle again. Fans on social media noticed Rasheeda had unfollowed Kirk overnight, and that alone was enough to start the storm. Shade Room picked it up first. Then blogs. Rumors resurface. "Is there another Frost baby?" Screenshots flooded Twitter. Comments poured in. The entire fan base was ready to dissect every clue. But inside her house, things were silent. Too silent. The kitchen table was still covered with half-open mail. Breakfast plates untouched. The house that usually felt full of life now sounded like a museum. Kirk showed up around noon, knocking softly on the door like he was afraid of his own reflection. "Rash, open up, please," he said through the door. She didn't move. He knocked again, voice cracking a little. "I just need to talk to you." After a long pause, she opened the door just enough to see his face. He looked exhausted, unshaven, like he hadn't slept. "You said you'd tell me everything," she said quietly. "Now's your chance." He stepped inside slowly. "It's not what you think," he began. "Then tell me what it is," she snapped. He hesitated, his hands buried in his pockets. It was complicated," he said finally. "There was a time when we weren't really together, when things were bad. I met someone." Rasheeda laughed bitterly. "You always have someone for when things are bad, don't you?" she said. "That's your pattern, Kirk. Things get rough. You go find comfort somewhere else, and I'm supposed to pick up the pieces." "It wasn't like that," he insisted. "I didn't even know she was pregnant until later." Her eyes narrowed. "So she is pregnant?" He nodded slowly. "She had the baby a few months ago." The words hung in the air, like smoke. Rasheeda felt dizzy, gripping the edge of the counter to steady herself. "Months ago," she repeated quietly. "And you were gonna tell me after the reunion?" After you smiled in my face and made me look like a fool on national TV again. Kirk took a step closer, but she raised her hand. Don't, just don't. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Outside, a car horn blared somewhere far away, but inside the room, all she could hear was the sound of her own heartbeat. Who is she? Rasheeda asked again. And don't you dare say it doesn't matter. He sighed, rubbing his temples. She's not from the show, he said. She's just someone who worked with one of my artists. A background girl, she said coldly. Someone who gets caught in your mess and ends up on blogs. She shook her head, voice trembling. Do you even realize what you've done to us? To me, I've spent years trying to convince people that you've changed. I did change, he said quietly. It was a mistake. She laughed through her tears. Mistake? A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This is betrayal. She turned away, whispering, I can't believe I'm living this again. He tried again. I'll take care of it, he said. She spun around. Take care of it? You mean hide it? Like you did the last time. Her voice rose. You think this is about damage control? This is about my family, Kirk. Our kids, our name, everything we built. He lowered his head. I know. Rasheeda's phone buzzed again, a message from one of her friends. The blogs are saying it's true. She turned the screen toward him. They already know, she said, and VH1's probably sitting on that footage right now, waiting to decide whether to air it or bury it. He looked up, fear flashing in his eyes. You have the footage. She didn't answer. Rasheeda, tell me you didn't. I did, she said calmly. I saw everything. You talking to the producer, saying you'd tell me later. How long did you think you could keep this from me? He took a deep breath, closing his eyes. I didn't want to lose you. You already did, she said. You just didn't realize it yet. That night, Rasheeda packed a bag. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. She drove out of Atlanta toward her mother's house, 2 hours away. When she arrived, her mother opened the door, immediately sensing something was wrong. Baby, what happened? She asked. Rasheeda just fell into her arms, sobbing. He did it again, Mama, she whispered. He did it again. Her mother held her close, murmuring, I told you he wasn't done. Men like Kirk, they don't stop until you stop forgiving them. They sat in silence for a long time. Rasheeda's phone kept vibrating, but she ignored it. She needed space. She needed to breathe. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, Kirk was losing control of the narrative. VH1 had called an emergency meeting. The producers wanted to cut ties before the scandal went public, but the network saw ratings potential. If we handle it right, this could be huge, one exec said. Kirk slammed his hands on the table. This is my family, not your headline, he said angrily. But deep down, he knew it was already out of his hands. By the next morning, the story broke wide open. Blogs posted side-by-side photos, fan theories, even alleged screenshots of text messages between Kirk and an unknown woman. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Frost family drama. Hashtag second baby truth. Hashtag VH1 cover-up. Everyone had an opinion. Rasheeda's mom begged her to stay offline, but she couldn't. She scrolled through comments, each one slicing deeper. People who once cheered for her strength were now debating whether she'd stay again or finally walk away. Some called her too forgiving. Others called her the definition of loyalty. But none of them knew how heavy it felt to love someone who kept breaking you. 2 days later, Kirk showed up at her mother's house. Her mom opened the door halfway. You shouldn't be here, she said. I just need to talk to her, Kirk said softly. You've talked enough. Her mom replied. You need to listen. But Rasheeda stepped into the hallway. Her eyes were swollen, her voice calm. It's fine, Mama. Let him speak. He looked at her, guilt written all over his face. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I know you don't believe me, but I am. She crossed her arms. You've said sorry so many times, Kirk. It's lost its meaning. He took a step closer. I can fix this, he said desperately. She shook her head. You can't fix what you keep breaking. You don't get to hurt me, patch me up, and then do it again. Her mother's voice cut through from behind. Baby, you don't owe him your peace. Rasheeda looked at him, tears streaming silently now. The worst part, she whispered, is that I still love you, and I hate myself for it. He swallowed hard. Then don't hate yourself, he said. Hate me? Oh, I do, she said. But that doesn't make the love disappear. She turned away. And that's the cruelest part. The following week, VH1 released a statement denying any hidden footage existed, but fans weren't buying it. Someone leaked a blurry screenshot of the confrontation, Rasheeda standing in front of Kirk. Mid-sentence, her face raw with emotion. The post went viral within hours. Thousands of comments poured in demanding the network release the full scene. Rasheeda's phone exploded again, but this time she didn't hide. She posted a simple message on Instagram. Some truths can't stay buried forever. Within minutes, it had over 300,000 likes and a flood of support from fans and celebrities alike. VH1 scrambled to control the damage. Insiders say an emergency call with top executives ended with one of them shouting, "We can't stop it now. The story's already out there." And they were right. What had started as a private heartbreak had turned into a national obsession. But for Rasheeda, the noise didn't matter anymore. She was done performing for the cameras, done pretending everything was fine. One night, sitting on her mother's porch, she whispered to herself, "If the world wants the truth, they'll get it from me." She reached out to a journalist friend, someone who had covered love and hip-hop stories before, but who she trusted to tell it straight. They agreed to meet in a quiet cafe outside the city. She brought the flash drive. He brought a recorder. The journalist pressed play, eyes widening as he watched the footage. When it ended, he leaned forward. "This changes everything," he said. "Good," Rasheeda replied, "because I'm done living in a lie." What neither of them knew was that someone else was watching from the corner table. A VH1 legal rep sent to monitor leaks. As soon as the meeting ended, the rep made a call. "She's got the footage," he said, "and she's not backing down." By that night, Rasheeda's phone buzzed again. An unknown number, a text. "You don't know the full story yet. Call me." Attached was a photo, a blurred image of a woman holding a baby. The caption read, "She wants to talk." Rasheeda stared at it, her hands trembling. The second baby wasn't just real, it was about to have a name. Rasheeda stared at the screen, her heart pounding so loud she could hear it echo inside her chest. The text felt like a ghost crawling out of the shadows. "You don't know the full story yet. Call me." She read it again and again, trying to decide if it was real or just another cruel trick. Her fingers hovered over the phone, trembling slightly. Every instinct told her to delete it, to walk away, but curiosity has a way of breaking through even the strongest pain. She whispered to herself, "Who are you?" But she already knew. The woman in the photo wasn't someone she recognized, at least not immediately. The picture was grainy, taken in bad lighting, but the outline of the baby's face, small, innocent, unaware, hit her harder than anything else. She saved the number, then turned off her phone, as if that could make it disappear. But the thought wouldn't leave her. Who was this woman? What did she want? And why now? By morning, she hadn't slept. She made coffee, stared at the window, watched the world move on like nothing had happened. Her mother noticed the dark circles under her eyes. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said gently. Rasheeda didn't answer. She was thinking about calling the number, about what kind of truth she was ready to face. Finally, just before noon, she picked up the phone and dialed. It rang twice. A woman's voice answered softly, cautious. "Hello, this is Rasheeda," she said. "You texted me." There was silence on the other end, then a quiet breath. "I didn't mean to upset you," the voice said. "I just thought you should know the truth before the network twists it." Rasheeda's pulse quickened. "So it's true. There really is a second baby." "Yes," the woman replied, "and I didn't want it to come out like this." Rasheeda took a deep breath. "Who are you?" "My name's Kayla," she said. "I worked with Kirk last year when he was managing that new artist. Things got complicated." The air went cold. Rasheeda gripped the counter tighter. "You had his baby," she said flatly. Kayla's voice cracked. "I didn't plan any of this. I didn't even know he was still married. He said you two were separated." Rasheeda laughed bitterly. "They always say that," she said. "I found out the truth later," Kayla continued. "By then, I was already pregnant. I tried to reach him, but he stopped answering. I didn't want money or drama. I just wanted him to be honest." Rasheeda's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. "And now you're calling me because you want what? Sympathy?" "No," Kayla said quietly. "I'm calling because I know what VH1 is planning. They're going to spin this story. They've already contacted me." Rasheeda froze. "What do you mean contacted you?" "They want to film it," Kayla said. "They said they'll make me part of the next season. They think it'll boost ratings." Rasheeda closed her eyes, pain turning into fury. "Of course they do," she whispered. "They'll turn my life into a circus again." Kayla hesitated. "I didn't agree yet. I wanted to talk to you first." Rasheeda took a long breath, her tone softening. "Listen, I don't hate you," she said. "You didn't owe me loyalty." "He did, but if they use you, they'll destroy both of us. Don't let them." "What do you want me to do?" Kayla asked. "Meet me," Rasheeda said. "Somewhere quiet, no cameras, no press." They agreed to meet that night at a small diner off the highway. Rasheeda drove there alone, her hood up, sunglasses on even though it was dark. When she walked in, she spotted Kayla immediately, young, nervous, clutching her phone like a lifeline. The baby wasn't with her, but the exhaustion on her face said everything. Rasheeda slid into the booth across from her. For a moment, they just sat there in silence, two women connected by one man's lies. Finally, Rasheeda spoke. "You look scared." "I am," Kayla admitted. "I didn't want any of this." "None of us did," Rasheeda replied softly. The waitress came by, poured coffee, disappeared again. The hum of the diner filled the gaps between their words. "How old is the baby?" Rasheeda asked. "For months," Kayla said. "His name's Kingston." Rasheeda's breath caught. "He named him?" "Yeah," Kayla said. "He was there when he was born. He even signed the papers. But after that, he disappeared." Rasheeda stared down at her coffee, her mind spinning. Kirk had been living two lives again, pretending, performing, smiling for the cameras while a whole other family existed in secret. It was too much to process. "Why didn't you go public?" she asked finally. "I didn't want to be part of that world," Kayla said. "I just wanted him to take responsibility quietly." "That world," Rasheeda repeated softly. "You mean my world?" Kayla looked down. "I didn't mean, no." "You're right," Rasheeda interrupted. "This world destroys everything it touches, and he knows that better than anyone." They sat in silence for a while before Kayla spoke again. "You seem strong," she said. "Stronger than I thought." Rasheeda smiled sadly. "Strength isn't a choice when pain keeps finding you." The conversation stretched late into the night. When they finally stood to leave, Kayla reached into her bag and handed Rasheeda an envelope. "This is for you," she said. "Proof." Rasheeda opened it slightly. "Photos, hospital records, text messages, undeniable evidence." "Thank you," she said quietly. "Whatever happens next, I'll make sure they can't twist this." Kayla nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I just want peace," she said. "Me too," Rasheeda whispered. As Rasheeda drove away, the city lights blurred through her windshield like streaks of gold and red. She felt numb, almost hollow. The truth had finally arrived, but it didn't bring closure. It brought weight, the kind that doesn't lift easily. Back in Atlanta, Kirk sat alone in their house, staring at the family photos on the wall. Each picture felt like a memory collapsing in on itself. His phone buzzed, a message from VH1. "We need to discuss the upcoming storyline. Call us tomorrow." He didn't reply. He knew what they wanted. They wanted to film his downfall. The next morning, Rasheeda went back to Atlanta. She didn't go home. Not yet. Instead, she went straight to the go home. Not yet. Instead, she went straight to the NETWORK office. The receptionist looked startled when she walked in, unannounced. "I need to see whoever's in charge of editing," she said firmly. The executive producer appeared a few minutes later, flanked by assistants. "Rasheeda, we weren't expecting." "Save it," she cut him off. "You knew about the second baby." The producer's face went pale. "That's not something we can discuss." "You discussed it with everyone else," she said sharply. "You contacted her. You tried to make it a storyline." "I'm not your content. I'm a human being." "We didn't confirm anything," he said defensively. "And for the record, this kind of confrontation doesn't help anyone." She stepped closer, her voice low but cutting. "It helps me, because if you try to air 1 second of that footage, I'll air the truth myself." "That would be a breach of contract," he warned. She smiled coldly. "Then sue me. I'll win twice, in court and in front of millions." He stared at her for a long moment, realizing she wasn't bluffing. "Let's talk privately," he said finally. They went into his office. Door closed. The argument lasted over an hour, voices rising, papers slamming. When Rasheeda finally walked out, her face was calm, but her eyes were fierce. She'd drawn her line in the sand. As she left the building, paparazzi swarmed. Flashes went off. Reporters shouted questions. "Rasheeda, is it true? Is Kirk the father? Are you leaving him?" She said nothing, just walked straight to her car and drove away. That night, she posted another message online. "You can bury footage, but you can't bury truth." Millions liked it within hours. Her name trended across every platform. Fans flooded comments with messages of support. But not everyone was kind. Some blamed her. Others accused her of using the scandal for attention. Kirk finally broke his silence 2 days later. He went live on Instagram, voice shaking. "I made mistakes," he said. "Big ones. And I hurt people I love. But there's always more to the story." His eyes glistened with tears that looked real, but the damage was already done. Rasheeda watched the live from her hotel room, her expression unreadable. She knew that look, the soft voice, the regret, the performance. He'd done it before. He knew how to make the world pity him. But this time, she wasn't going to let him rewrite the ending. She called her journalist friend again. "We're doing the interview," she said. "I'm done staying quiet." The interview was filmed in a private studio. No VH1 logos. No flashy lights. Just Rasheeda, sitting under a soft glow. Her voice calm, her words measured. She didn't name names, but she told the story. The betrayal, the silence, the manipulation. She ended with a line that sent chills through viewers. "When you build an empire on secrets, eventually the truth becomes your biggest headline." The clip exploded online. Within 24 hours, it hit 1 million views. Fans reposted it everywhere, calling her brave, calling her real. But behind the applause, the war was still brewing, because while the world was rallying behind her, VH1 executives were in chaos. The leaked footage had resurfaced, not the full video, but just enough to prove it existed. And this time, someone inside the production office was the leak. By midnight, the internet was ablaze again. Hashtags trended, fan pages dissected every frame. Kirk's name was dragged across every gossip blog. And somewhere in Atlanta, sitting in the dark, Rasheeda finally exhaled. Not because she was healed, but because the lies had finally started to unravel. Still, one question lingered in her mind as she stared out the window at the city lights. If this was the truth she fought for, why did it still hurt so much to win it? And somewhere far away, Kayla was putting her baby to sleep, watching the same headlines, whispering softly, "Maybe now, he'll do right by all of us." But none of them knew that VH1 had already made a call to start filming again, because in television, heartbreak is ratings. And the cameras were about to roll once more. When the call went out from VH1 headquarters, it wasn't a meeting request, it was a command. Every producer, every crew member, every cast coordinator got the same message: reunion reshoots, mandatory attendance. The network wasn't just trying to save the show anymore. They were trying to reclaim control. Chaos was good for business, but only when it was their chaos. And right now, the Frost scandal had taken on a life of its own. Rasheeda knew what was coming. She'd been in the game too long to be blindsided. The network would spin it, re-edit it, package her pain as exclusive footage and sell it as redemption television. She had two choices: walk away quietly or walk in and own the entire narrative. She chose the second. On the day of the reshoot, the studio parking lot buzzed like a beehive. Camera vans, lighting rigs, wardrobe trucks, assistants sprinted between trailers, clutching clipboards. Kirk arrived first, dressed sharp, trying too hard to look composed. His silence spoke louder than any script. When Rasheeda's car pulled up moments later, the crowd shifted. Even the air felt heavy. Phones went up, eyes followed her. She stepped out, calm, composed, the kind of quiet that makes people nervous. Inside the soundstage, producers huddled near monitors. "Keep cameras rolling the whole time," one whispered. "We need every reaction, every tear." Another nodded, "And make sure security stays close. This could blow up." Rasheeda walked straight past them, her heels clicking like gunfire. Kirk looked up when she entered, his expression unreadable. The director approached cautiously. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. She didn't answer. She just sat down on the couch where they'd filmed 100 fake reconciliations before. "Let's get this over with," she said. The lights dimmed slightly, the cameras locked in. The host began his intro, voice smooth as ever. "We're here today to talk about truth, healing, and what really happened off camera." Rasheeda, Kirk, fans have a lot of questions. Rasheeda looked straight at the camera. "So do I." The host shifted uncomfortably. "Rumors are circulating about a second child," and she cut him off. "They're not rumors, they're facts." The room went silent. Kirk's eyes darted toward her, pleading silently, but she didn't flinch. "For years, we've shared our highs and lows with the world," she continued. "But what the world doesn't see is the editing, the manipulation, the parts they don't air when the truth doesn't fit their storyline." VH1 didn't just cut a scene, they cut the truth. The host hesitated. "Rasheeda, are you saying the network covered up what happened?" "I'm saying they knew," she said sharply. "They knew about the baby before I did." Gasps echoed through the set. Even crew members froze behind their equipment. Kirk shifted in his seat, rubbing his temples. "Rash, this isn't the way," he muttered under his breath. "What way?" she snapped. "The way where I stay quiet while everyone else profits off my pain." "No, not this time." The host tried to steer things back. "Kirk, is there anything you'd like to say?" Kirk exhaled slowly, leaning forward. "Look, I made mistakes. I own that, but we were going through things. People think they know our life, but they only see what's edited." Rasheeda laughed softly. "You mean what's cut?" He looked up. "You think I wanted this? You didn't want to get caught." She shot back. "There's a difference." The tension was electric. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. Kirk's hands shook slightly as he spoke again. I tried to protect you. You tried to protect yourself, she said. The host cleared his throat. There are reports that another woman has come forward. Rasheeda interrupted again. She's not coming forward. She already did. And she's not the villain here. For the first time, Kirk looked genuinely stunned. You talked to her? Rasheeda nodded slowly. Yeah, Kirk, I did, and she told me everything. He blinked, struggling to find words. She shouldn't have. She did because she was tired of your lies, Rasheeda said. You told her we were separated. You told her I moved on. You told her whatever made you feel less guilty. The host tried to cut to a break, but Rasheeda wasn't finished. And you. She turned toward the cameras, the network. You filmed my heartbreak, edited it, replayed it, sold it, and called it entertainment. I'm not your story arc anymore. I'm the truth you tried to bury. Back in the control room, executives panicked. One shouted, cut the feed, but another said, no, keep rolling, this is gold. The line between exploitation and exposure blurred until it didn't matter. Rasheeda stood up mid-scene. I'm done, she said. You got your footage. Now you can deal with the fallout. She walked off set, leaving Kirk sitting alone under the hot lights, the camera zooming in on his silence. That clip went viral before the episode even aired. Someone from the editing team leaked it. Raw, uncut, powerful. Millions watched Rasheeda walk away in real time. The hashtag #ImDone started trending worldwide. Fans flooded her page with support, calling her an icon, a survivor, a queen reclaiming her crown. But the fallout was massive. Advertisers pulled back. VH1 issued statements about respecting artist boundaries. Kirk went silent online, and for a few weeks, it seemed like the storm might finally calm. But storms like these don't just fade, they transform. One night, as Rasheeda sat in her living room scrolling through fan messages, she got another call, this time from a private number. She hesitated before answering. Hello? A deep voice replied, you don't know me, but I worked on the editing team. There's something you need to see. Her stomach dropped. What are you talking about? They didn't delete the footage, he said. They kept it. All of it. There's more than what you saw. Her pulse quickened. Send it to me. I can't, he whispered. Not yet, but you need to know Kirk wasn't acting alone. Someone from production helped cover it up. Who? He paused. Mona knew. The name hit like an earthquake. Mona Scott Young, the executive face of Love and Hip Hop. The woman who built the franchise. If she'd known, it meant this wasn't just about Kirk's betrayal. It was about a network conspiracy to protect their most bankable storyline. Rasheeda sat in silence after the call ended, her mind racing. She'd been played on every level, not just as a wife, but as a brand, a performer, a piece of the machine. The next morning, she drove straight to Mona's office. The receptionist tried to stop her, but Rasheeda wasn't listening. She burst through the door, eyes blazing. Mona looked up from her desk, startled. Rasheeda, what the hell? Don't, Rasheeda said. Just don't. Mona stood up slowly. If this is about the footage, it's about the lie. Rasheeda snapped. You knew. You knew about the baby. You knew about the scene, and you let me stand there looking like a fool for ratings. Mona sighed, closing her laptop. Rasheeda, this is television. Everything is bigger than it looks. We protect the brand, so you destroy people instead, Rasheeda said. You let me find out on set. You turned my life into a script. Mona's voice softened. You've built a career on this. Pain sells, but you control how it ends. Rasheeda's hands shook. Then I'm ending it my way. She turned and walked out, ignoring security's protests. Later that night, Mona called Kirk. You need to talk to her, she said urgently. If she goes public about this, we're finished. She's not gonna listen to me, Kirk said wearily. She's done. Then you better find a way to make her believe you again, Mona said coldly. Because if she burns this down, she's taking all of us with her. For the next few days, Rasheeda disappeared again. Fans speculated. Blogs guessed. Insiders whispered. But what no one knew was that she was preparing something. Something that would make sure her voice could never be muted again. She started her own production team, quietly hiring independent editors, producers, and camera operators. She called the project Unfiltered. The mission was simple: to tell her story, her way. A month later, the teaser dropped on YouTube. It opened with Rasheeda sitting in a dark room. No makeup, no script. Her voice was calm, powerful. They showed you what they wanted, she said. Now here's what they didn't. Within 24 hours, the clip hit 1 million views. Fans begged for the full version. The network panicked. Mona called her lawyers. Kirk tried reaching out, but she didn't respond. She was done negotiating. The full documentary premiered online 2 weeks later. Raw footage, unseen scenes, behind-the-scenes audio, and confessions from crew members who confirmed the cover-up. It was explosive. VH1 issued statements calling it unauthorized. Kirk called it once, but fans called it justice. The truth was finally out, and this time, there was no cutting room floor to hide it on. In one of the most emotional moments, Rasheeda looked directly into the camera and said, "I loved a man who betrayed me, but the bigger betrayal was from the people who turned that pain into profit. I'm not angry anymore. I'm awake." The video ended with a single line, "No one edits truth forever." The internet erupted, celebrities shared it, journalists dissected it. Within a week, major outlets were calling it one of the boldest moves in reality TV history. VH1's stock took a hit, Mona went silent, and Kirk, for the first time, disappeared from social media completely. But behind the empowerment, there was still ache, because for Rasheeda, the truth wasn't victory, it was survival. Late one night, sitting alone in her studio, she whispered to herself, "What now?" Her reflection in the dark glass didn't answer, and outside, the city buzzed on, still hungry for drama, still watching, still waiting for the next episode. The night the documentary premiered, Atlanta felt electric. Cars slowed outside Frost Bistro, people gathered on sidewalks, phones out, watching clips play across every feed. Even the billboards seemed to hum with her name. Inside her old house, Kirk sat alone, lights off, watching the premiere through his phone screen. Each word from Rasheeda's mouth hit like a hammer. She wasn't yelling, she didn't need to. Her calm was more devastating than any scream. The internet was split. Half the world called her a hero, the other half called her a mastermind. Conspiracy threads claimed she'd planned the whole thing for publicity, but those who'd followed her story from the beginning knew this wasn't strategy. It was survival, dressed as strength. Rasheeda ignored the noise. For the first time in years, she was quiet inside. No production schedules, no confessionals, no cameras following her home. She moved differently now, slower, softer, but still powerful. She spent mornings in the studio working on new music, late nights talking with fans live, opening up about healing. She wasn't performing anymore. She was reclaiming. But as the world celebrated her independence, Kirk spiraled. Brand deals dried up, sponsors pulled out, and the network quietly cut his future appearances. Every time he opened social media, his name sat beside words like scandal and betrayal. He tried reaching out again, calls unanswered, texts left on read. He sent flowers to her store. She sent them back. One evening, he drove to the Frost Bistro after closing hours. The lights were dim, but her car was parked out front. He stood outside for a minute, gathering courage, then knocked gently. She opened the door, surprised but composed. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I needed to see you," he replied. "Just once. No cameras. No drama." She sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "That's all it ever is with us, drama." "Not tonight," he said quietly. "Please." She hesitated, then stepped aside. He walked in, looking around the place they'd built together. The tables, the walls, the framed photos, everything felt like a museum of a life they'd lost. "You really did it," he said softly. "You took the power back." "I had to," she said. "No one else was gonna give it to me." He nodded, his voice breaking. "You made me look like the villain." "You are the villain," she said, her tone steady. "But you can stop being one if you want to." He looked up, eyes red. "How?" "By telling the truth," she said. "Not to me, to yourself." For a long moment, they just stood there, the silence thick between them. Outside, rain began to fall softly against the windows. Kirk finally spoke again. "I saw the documentary," he said. "Every second of it. You were right. I didn't just lie to you, I lied to myself. I thought I could control the narrative. I thought being on TV meant being forgiven, but I see it now. All I did was perform my own downfall." Rasheeda's voice softened. "The cameras didn't ruin us, Kirk. The secrets did." He nodded slowly. "I wish I could fix it." "You can't fix it," she said gently. "But you can learn from it. For our kids, for yourself." He swallowed hard, nodding. "Maybe one day, you'll forgive me. Maybe one day," she said. "But not for you, for me." He turned to leave, pausing at the door. "You really done with love and hip-hop?" She looked at him, her eyes clear. "I'm done with lies, whatever that means." He gave a faint smile, then walked out into the rain. She watched him go, a single tear sliding down her cheek. Not sadness, just release. Weeks passed. The world kept spinning. The Frost name started to rebuild itself, not as a couple, but as individuals. Rasheeda's new project, Unfiltered, landed her interviews on talk shows and invitations from platforms that once ignored her. She talked about forgiveness, womanhood, resilience. Fans connected deeply. The brand she'd built from pain now stood for strength. But behind the spotlight, new rumors began to stir again. Blogs started whispering about a deal, VH1 offering Rasheeda her own spin-off, one she could fully control. Producers wanted to call it Rasheeda Reborn. At first, she refused. She didn't want to step back into that world, but the offer came with creative freedom, total control, and a chance to reshape what reality TV could be. She thought about it for days, pacing her office, reading messages from fans who said her story helped them leave toxic relationships, stand up for themselves, or rebuild their lives. Maybe, she thought, this wasn't about returning to television, maybe it was about reclaiming it. When she finally said yes, she made one demand: no scripts, no fake storylines. She made one demand: no scripts, no fake storylines. If I'm doing this, we're doing it real. The network hesitated but agreed. Filming began quietly. No one outside the core team knew what she was working on. She wanted authenticity, not spectacle. The first few episodes focused on her rebuilding her business, mentoring young artists, showing the unfiltered truth of entrepreneurship, family, and growth. But then, halfway through production, Kirk showed up again, not to cause trouble, but to apologize on camera. It wasn't scripted, and she hadn't planned for it. The crew froze as he walked into the shot. She could have stopped filming. She could have told them to cut, but instead, she looked at the director and said, "Keep rolling." He sat down across from her, nervous, unsure of what to say. "I know you didn't expect this," he said quietly. "You're right," she replied. I just wanted to say thank you," he said, "for not destroying me when you could have, for letting me fall on my own." She nodded slightly. "You did that part by yourself." He smiled faintly. "Yeah, I did, but watching you rebuild, it made me want to do better too." Rasheeda tilted her head. "You still got time." They sat there in silence for a long moment, two people broken by the same storm, now finally learning to stand again. The crew captured every second. No drama, no yelling, just truth. When the scene aired months later, fans flooded social media. "This is what growth looks like." One comment read, "No staged tears, just two humans facing what's left." It became one of the most watched moments in franchise history, not because of scandal, but because of silence. Because sometimes, forgiveness is louder than rage. But what made it even more powerful came later. After filming wrapped, Kirk released a public statement, handwritten, scanned, posted to his page. In it, he wrote, "I'm not proud of my past. I'm proud that I finally stopped running from it. Thank you, Rasheeda, for teaching me that truth doesn't destroy you, it frees you." The post went viral. For the first time in years, comments under his name weren't just hate. Some were understanding, even empathy. Meanwhile, Rasheeda kept building. She launched a foundation for women in entertainment called Beyond the Storyline, aimed at helping others separate fame from identity. She gave speeches, held panels, mentored young creators. She was finally doing what she always wanted, using her pain to create purpose. And yet, late some nights, she'd still scroll through old videos, old memories, moments before everything broke. Not to mourn them, but to remind herself how far she'd come. The woman in those clips, smiling through betrayal, pretending for the cameras she didn't exist anymore. One evening, sitting on her balcony overlooking the city, she whispered to herself, "I'm not her anymore." The wind carried her words into the night, but somewhere deep inside, she knew the story wasn't finished, because every ending on television hides a beginning off-screen. And in a quiet office at VH1, a group of executives sat around a table, staring at ratings data for Unfiltered. One of them leaned forward. "If we can't control her, we'll partner with her," he said. "Rasheeda's bigger than the show now. We need her." Another nodded slowly. "The fans trust her. Maybe she becomes the new face of the franchise." As they spoke, Rasheeda's phone buzzed with a new message, an offer for executive production on a brand new Love and Hip Hop reboot, but this time, not as cast, as boss. She smiled faintly. "Full circle," she whispered. Outside, Atlanta glowed against the horizon. Alive, unstoppable, messy, beautiful. Just like her story. And for the first time in a long time, she felt peace. Not because the pain was gone, but because it finally made sense. As the city lights faded behind her, Rasheeda finally exhaled. No cameras, no producers, no lines to deliver. Just silence, real and heavy and alive. This was the part VH1 never filmed. The moment after the noise when truth finally feels like peace. She had walked through betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak, and somehow turned every scar into a lesson. She didn't need validation anymore. She was the validation, The proof that you can lose everything and still rise higher than the people who tried to break you. And that's what fans felt. Thousands flooded her page. Not for gossip this time, but for gratitude. Messages poured in from women who said they found strength through her. Men who said they finally saw the cost of ego. Families who said her story reminded them to choose honesty before pride. For once, reality TV had turned into something real. Not ratings, not spectacle, but redemption. One night, during a quiet live session, she said something that stayed with everyone watching. Healing isn't pretty. She whispered, it's loud, it's messy, and sometimes it hurts worse than the wound itself. But it's the only way you get yourself back. Her voice cracked a little at the end, and that's when it hit. This wasn't just entertainment anymore. This was testimony. Kirk stayed out of the spotlight after that. No more interviews, no more apologies. He started working quietly behind the scenes, managing new artists, visiting his kids more, keeping his name out of headlines. It wasn't a perfect ending, but maybe that's what made it real. Because real life doesn't tie itself up neatly, it keeps unfolding. Like a scar that never fully fades but stops hurting after a while. Rasheeda, on the other hand, kept moving. The Frost Empire transformed into something new. Her brand became a symbol of growth. Her music carried pieces of her truth. And her voice, calm, confident, raw, became something people trusted. She didn't need a network to define her anymore. She was the network now. And maybe that's the lesson buried beneath all the drama. The idea that no matter who betrays you, no matter what the world edits out of your story, the truth always finds its way to light. It might take months, years, or a single viral moment, but it comes. And when it does, you get to decide how the world remembers you, as the victim or as the one who stood back up. So now, to everyone watching this, remember this part. Don't scroll past it. Don't let it fade when the next headline drops. Because what you just heard isn't just gossip, it's a story about survival. About what happens when love turns to chaos, when silence becomes your only weapon, and when the cameras finally stop rolling. If you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever had to rebuild from scratch, if you've ever looked in the mirror and said I'm done, then you know exactly what Rasheeda felt that day. But look at her now, stronger, wiser, still standing, and that means you can too. So here's your moment. Before you scroll away, hit that like button if you felt her pain, if you respected her strength, if you believe that truth deserves a voice, and if you're new here, subscribe right now, because we're not done uncovering what really happens when the cameras stop. There are still secrets buried deep inside Atlanta, scenes VH1 never aired, stories waiting to break, and we're going to bring every single one of them to light. Comment below what you think really happened behind that second baby scandal. Was it a setup? Was it loyalty gone wrong? Or was it just another chapter in a love story that never really ended? Let us know, because your voice shapes what we expose next. And if you've been following from the start, thank you for believing, for watching, for refusing to settle for the edited version of truth. This community doesn't just react, it remembers. And every share, every comment, every click tells the networks that real stories matter more than manufactured ones. So don't just watch, participate. Keep the conversation alive. Tell your friends, your followers, your timeline, because the more we talk, the more truth surfaces. And the truth, it's louder than any network can mute. This isn't the end of the Frost story. It's the start of something bigger. Because as long as there's one secret left, one scene cut, one truth buried, we'll be here bringing it back into the light where it belongs. So stay tuned, stay curious, stay fearless, because next time, we're diving even deeper into what VH1 didn't want you to see. And remember, in this world of edits and lies, the real power belongs to the one who owns the final cut. Now hit that subscribe button, drop a, if you've ever been hurt but healed anyway, and a, if you're ready for the next chapter. Because this isn't just a story, it's a revolution, and it's only just beginning. Story. It's a revolution, and it's only just beginning.